Hello, everybody. And I can see people are joining in. Welcome to the Success Beyond Scales webinar series, where we bring empowering knowledge to individuals who are on a journey of lasting health and wellness. So today's topic is very pertinent to the technological changes that our world is seeing. And we have got experts today with us who are going to be allowing us to get further information on how we can use this technology responsibly, safely, and also in a way that allows us to get the most out of this. Now, before I progress further, I'm going to actually just share my screen and I'm going to share a couple of slides with you. The whole thing around this technological, I should say, I don't want to use the word tsunami because tsunami refers to something which is kind of, negative. However, what we are seeing is that there is such a sort of, shift in the use of AI tools that are coming up in the market, which are allowing us deeper insights that we had not thought earlier. So, with that in mind, I think it is important to also know that why should you attend this webinar? Why should anybody attend this webinar? And the essential thing is that artificial intelligence, as we are seeing, is actually here to stay. The growth that is forecasted and the growth that is already happening, as you can see in this graph, is phenomenal. And it is going to touch every aspect of our lives. However, when we want to make it pertinent to why you as an individual who's on a journey of, not only achieving your health goals, but also maintaining them too, why should you attend? There are these three key questions that come to mind. And number one is, how can I use this technology safely? Number two, how can I use it to improve my family's and my loved ones' health? And the last and perhaps the most important is, how can I use it to save money and time? And in answer to these questions, we have got our experts today, and I'm going to invite them one by one. And so feel free, firstly, to put your questions in the chat box. But more importantly, I'm going to introduce them to you today, and then we are going to get started with hearing what their views are and what they are using in their day-to-day practice in order to introduce this technology to their clients in a safe and effective manner. And of course, we have got an AI expert with us as well today who's going to tell us a bit of a background on his own personal journey and perhaps also take us through how can we implement this and experiment with this technology in our own life. So I'll bring in firstly Gagan, who is the AI expert that I'm talking about. Gagan and I have known each other for a while. Thank you, Gagan, for being here. It's always insightful to hear what your expertise and your area of, I should say, knowledge about this space is, because I know you've got a very keen interest in health and well-being as well. So it'll be really nice to hear your views and also share with you some of the questions that have already been provided to us. Besides this, we have got Hannah and Georgia, who are amazing dietitians, again, who I've known personally for a few years now. And essentially, they're going to be providing us with some guardrails on how we can use this technology in a safe, effective manner in our day-to-day practice. So without further ado, I might actually firstly get Hannah, because Hannah, we would like to hear from you about, I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to request you, if you are able to sort of, take us through what are the kind of common challenges that people who are on this journey of either trying to lose weight, gain health, what are they experiencing, and where you see potentially the role of a technology of this nature?
It's a very broad question, isn't it? And
Well,
with
it is.
lots and lots of answers and possibilities. So I see it, I guess there's two sides. As a practitioner, we use it quite differently to how we would recommend our patients use it. So the level of prompting is obviously more technical from our side, and then what we will relay to clients is obviously more basic and more specific. But I think it's really valuable for helping give clients inspiration or giving them specific parameters to build meals around that they can prompt ChatGPT with, which I'll show you later, to get some inspiration and ideas. And it will often suggest things that people didn't consider they could use or that they have. And, you can prompt it, for example, around time constraints and cut measures and recipe modification. So it's really time saving. It's all done for them. Which is great with some verification help. So it really just breaks down some of those barriers to the decision fatigue and the burden of knowing how to select recipes and how to change them themselves. It's quite technical to do that. So ChatGPT does a great job of doing that. And then, of course, there are lots of other apps that you can pay for that can do the meal planning for you, which is a bit more of a commitment, but is changing the way people do things.
Yeah. And Georgia, can I just switch that question to you? That what is the current ground situation that you see? What is it that are clients coming to you and saying, hey, when you're talking to them about sort of, healthy eating habits and things like that, are they actually coming to you saying, actually, I'm following this already, or I'm doing this? What is the ground reality?
It's really quite interesting because it's sort of very few far in between that I've seen. I haven't seen many people that have been following like meal plans or anything like that created from ChatGPT. I think it's more patients that are really confused about all the information that they're seeing online. And so we'll often use it maybe to ask it some questions just to get some clarity. And then they'll often bring that to me, as a dietitian and sort of say, like, this is maybe there's a few questions that I'm really confused about. This is what ChatGPT is saying. Is this actually correct? But from a practical standpoint, I don't really have too many patients that are actually using it. I have seen it being used in like food logging apps is probably the most common place I've seen it. There's a few different apps that you might be able to take a photo of your food and it might be able to show you like the nutritional content. That's been helpful, especially for weight loss clients, to be able to, I guess, get an understanding of what's going into their food. That's probably where I've been seeing it the most.
Yeah. And I want to take this to Gagan next. But before I take to Gagan, I want to actually acknowledge Monique's presence here, who's been sort of supportive of these webinars and supporting me on these webinars. Monique, before I go to Gagan, I want to just ask you from a mindset coaching perspective, do you ever get, and I'm just curious, digressing a little bit consciously, what do you see? Do your clients talk to you about, yes, you are suggesting me certain techniques about healthy eating habits and how to develop a routine? Because I know you talk to your patients about, or your clients about this. What is your experience around it?
Well, specifically around AI, I work quite closely with clients about their food choices and how that blends in with what they've been told from their dietitian and how we can create something that they will enjoy. So sometimes I'll go through and we'll just sort of say, okay, well, what are the things that you've got in your fridge? Can you ask ChatGPT to add some protein, give some suggestions? So we've gone through on a individual basis. How do you explore it so that you can really personalize and tailor it for yourself? So I'm really excited by the possibilities. And I think when people come armed with information from their dietitian and then have a look at what's in their fridge and then use ChatGPT to marry the two, they come up with really great things. We've gone from there, we've leapt forward into what does a shopping list look like? So the shopping list is created straight in front of them. How does this look like for a complete week? So lots of variations and permutations and combinations, but yeah, it's been really a game changer.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, let's go to the master now. So, Gagan, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey. I'm curious to hear about that first, because, that'll allow people to understand that you're not just here as a technical person. I want to hear the back end story. What got you interested here?
Thank you, Arun, and hello, everyone. Look, I guess first thing I'll call out, Arun, you called me AI expert. And I would humbly say that I myself call as, power user. So I use it extensively and I teach people how to use it the best way. But obviously, the experts are developing the next revolution of AI. They are the experts in my view. Obviously, I can tell you how to use it best. So I've got a good demo to talk about, and if we get some time, I'll show you a bit of demo on how best to use it. And we talk about prompt engineering, but I want to take it a step ahead, and I call that as context engineering, right? And we'll talk a bit more about that as well, not technically, but before that, the journey. Now, if you remember, Arun, we met in like 2022. That was the first time, and I don't know what conversation we were doing, but you mentioned to me about obesity scale. And you said, well, this is the BMI, you do this, and you get to know about, whether you are obese or not. And you wouldn't believe, I found myself that I'm obese. I'm like at the border, but I am, right? So that's where my journey started. And
At that stage, just to
at that
clarify,
stage,
not
at that
today.
stage. Because before that, I'm fine, I'm doing perfectly. I'm going to gym, I have active life, I hike a lot. So I'm doing everything actively. But that point of time is when I figured out that, okay, I am at the risk of getting all the bad things in my life. So yeah, absolutely went to GP. GP found out that I have a bit of hypertension, and that's when it all started. So I started combining technology. AI was quite prominent then, and I was power user, so we started using it, apps and everything. I was able to get my hypertension in control. So now I'm at a stage where I'm called by all the apps as muscular overweight, not obese. So I don't know what that means, but that's where I am at the moment. But yeah, look, I would say that AI is amazing technology, as all of you have already been saying that. There has been a bit of apprehension with people, and I wanted to ask you, Georgia. You mentioned that people do use, some of the apps, but they're still not using ChatGPT. Do you know why? I mean, because I'm curious, because my life is like out of my 8 hours, I would use it for 6 hours. That's how my life is, because everything I use it for. But what's your thought? Like, why people don't? I want to know that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I think from day to day, I hear a lot of people using it for different things, like being a personal assistant and all that financial help and that type of thing. But I think in clinic necessarily, I don't necessarily see it as much. I don't know, potentially the population group that we're working with maybe aren't as savvy in terms of that type of thing, or aren't looking to the internet for answers. Maybe they know that it's the dietitians where they'll probably get the more credible answer. No, I'm not too sure. Or maybe they just haven't been showed. So maybe that's what our job is, to help again marry those two.
Yeah, look, I think there is a concern which I keep hearing that's about privacy, sustainable use. Sometimes it hallucinates, it has all those problems. And I do have a process that I follow to kind of minimize all of that quite a bit. So I'm happy to share that. But Arun, look, I'll first go back to you, and maybe you can ask me to. I've got a few slides.
Yeah,
And
I
oh, but
think we'll come back to you, Gagan. So park
sure.
that one for the moment. I'll go back to Hannah, actually. Hannah, what I would like to use, I believe you'd like to share with us let's call it like a meal plan, like an ideal meal plan that you would sort of, you normally share with patients, regardless of whether they're going down the path of post-surgical recovery or down the path of GLP-1 medications and that way. So where do you see, not as a user, but as a clinician or as a dietitian, where do you see that there could be a potential for this technology to be applied to make the job, A, save time and save money?
So the question you're asking is, how can it be used for clients to save time and money, to create
Correct. Yeah.
planning?
Yeah. In your opinion, I'm not saying for the clients to do it, but where do you see an opportunity perhaps? And I'm
Yeah,
happy for
I'm
Georgia to pitch in as well.
trying to put my client hat on and get inside the shoes and the
Sorry,
mind.
when I say I'm not saying client hat, I'm asking you as
Oh,
a dietitian.
all
As
right.
a dietitian, do you see an opportunity or not at all? Or do you think that, this is a high risk stakes, a high risk game? We should not be going
No,
down this
not
path.
at all. I actually run my life through ChatGPT. I
Right.
have a paid subscription. I use it for multiple
Lots
aspects
of things.
of my life, including my professional life. So I like to think that I have quite advanced skills when it comes to prompting it in a way that gives me the data that I want and verifying the information that I get. And obviously, I'm science trained, so I know to verify that information and look for peer reviewed sources where necessary to match the two. So from that perspective, it saves me an enormous amount of time.
Hmm.
From a meal planning perspective and like providing care as a dietitian, I would say it's more beneficial for me, I think, because it is actually improving the process of verifying information and giving specific guidelines and ideas. If I'm trying to modify a recipe and I'm trying to hit certain targets before sharing that with someone, I can do that really, really quickly. Whereas I ordinarily would have plugged that recipe into an app to get the macros, and then I would have modified it myself with my knowledge, knowing that okay, I
Hmm.
want to reduce the fat load. Okay, let me reduce it to this and see what I get. So that burden has completely been taken away by using ChatGPT in particular.
Yeah.
So it's actually saving me a lot of time and making the process more efficient. And because it's more process efficient, I can provide more solutions,
Yeah.
provide a wider range of strategies and ideas. Yes, in terms of consulting, then certainly, yeah, let's use it right now. The other day with someone, I was like, well, let's spend some time actually coming up with some family friendly meals. We didn't use ChatGPT. We just came up with some options and went through the recipe list and planning list ourselves without using it, because a lot of people struggle with doing. So stepping it out and spending that time doing it is a great way to just build the start of it. So,
Yeah.
I guess in that context, yes, maybe you spend time in sessions actually using the tool to come up with those ideas and then workshop them there and then. Because, I guess there's the output there if someone prompts it for a meal plan, but actually going and purchasing and executing on that meal plan is another thing. So,
And we'll come to that in a moment
that's
because, yeah, that's a
you'll have
mindset
to have
thing
there.
that,
It's like having recipe books and a meal plan your dietitian gives
of
you.
course,
The
of course,
execution and having are two different things.
there are millions of my recipe planning books already in the market. And let's put all of them together into Chat GPT or an AI tool. And we can say, the knowledge is there now, but putting knowledge into action is another issue. Let me come to Georgia. Georgia, do you have anything to share? And if you have any slides to share or anything, we'd be most appreciative because we'd like to know what is your perspective from a clinical side of things. And then we come to Gagan, who is going to perhaps give his perspective from both a user as well as an AI expert perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I will share some slides if I can.
Yes, you should be able to.
Oh, there might be a little bump in the road.
That's all right. Just the share button. You probably are aware of that.
Yes, no, it's just asking me to. Uh, oh, I'm not sure. Hang on a second. Let me try. Yeah, sorry, it's asking me to do lots of technical things.
No, that's okay. Well, while you're doing your technical things,
Yes.
may I just move the question to, from action to, from knowledge to action. Monique, coming to you, what do you see? Can AI actually inspire us to take action? Do you think so? I know it's a
I
very individual question.
Yeah. So a lot of the clients I work with, it is about rubber to the road. So it's always about, how do we take that next step? So again, working with clients, I have said to them, what are the ingredients that you've got in your house? And we'll feed that into ChatGPT. We'll ask it to create a recipe or maybe some varieties of a recipe. So now we've already got something there. And then we can say, well, how can we add X, Y, and Z into it? And now we start saying, well, what do we need to get from the shop? So they are baby steps, but I'm a true believer that if you can try something, that fear factor or that hesitancy in trying something suddenly starts to diminish. So as soon as you start on something, and quite often, even if you've got that paid subscription, you can just take a photo in your fridge. It will pick up everything in your fridge. It'll pick up everything in your pantry, and it will put together a recipe for you with ingredients that you've already got. So there is that real intelligence in there that can help you out. So definitely moving past those hurdles.
And I think I like what you said. AI can be used as a tool to chunk things down. So, and that's where the hesitation is. When you get, say, I'm just looking at say, if I was a client and if I met Hannah or Georgia to get me to sort of make a whole meal plan for a whole week, I might be overwhelmed because that's kind of like, too much information at one point. But if I wanted to be chunked down, that, okay, what should I purchase from the market, say on Monday and Tuesday only, and then I go back and do that again on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, and chunk it down into small steps. I think that I see as a client maybe a lot of advantage to me. Georgia, if you're ready, I'm happy for you to sort of crack on, please.
Ready to go. Absolutely.
Yes.
Let me just get this
Go
up.
for it.
Perfect. So yeah, we were just, I suppose Hannah and I had a bit of a chat and wanted to specifically go over, I suppose, from a clinical perspective, I suppose what are sort of the pros, the cons, and I guess, how can we sort of marry dietetics and in-person consultation with, I guess, the practicality of patients going away and doing AI, I guess, by themselves. And Hannah will put a lot of this into a very practical perspective and show you sort of how patients can actually do it themselves. But for the moment, we'll just cover, I guess, sort of the benefits, and sort of like the things we want to look out for, just to make sure we're using ChatGPT or AI a bit more considered when you're doing your prompts and things like that. So I suppose the first thing I want to think about is more about the I guess the benefits of using it. And we've covered a lot of these already, but I think specifically what patients can get out of it the most is, number one, that it's super quick and accessible. So like Hannah said, for ourselves, it's really accessible as clinicians just to be able to whip something up really quickly. But for the patient themselves, just being able to, again, go to ChatGPT and ask, what are some high protein dinners I can create with the 4 ingredients I've got in my fridge, and get practical ideas in seconds. It's sort of that sort of personalized, instant kind of advice that can help them make better decisions in that moment, rather than maybe opting for something that they wasn't a very healthy meal, for example. I think it's quite empowering as well. It's almost an educational tool in combination with the information they'll get from their dietitian or health professional. So rather than reading a lot of like generic handouts or anything like that, they can sort of ask more specific questions. So if you had questions about why is fiber important? What are the differences between these 2 types of fiber? And getting that information really quickly, so they can sort of build on maybe the concepts they've been working with in clinic with myself or with Hannah. So it just turns into more of that like personalized experience. And I guess similar to being quickly accessible, it's more about that creativity and giving patients a lot of variety with their meals as well. So often we hear, a big complaint is things like food boredom. You're getting used to the same meals all the time. So being able to get a fresh perspective by putting different ingredients and things into AI can just help refresh, I guess, the meals that people are having. And like Hannah touched on before, just reduce that mental load of having to think about what am I making all the time. But I suppose with the positives also comes the drawbacks that we need to be mindful of when we're using different types of tools. So number one is sort of the accuracy. So I suppose, nutrition science and guidelines are always updating and evolving all the time. So we can't really be sure necessarily what sources places like ChatGPT are actually drawing it from. So it might be older sources that are outdated, or it could be sources of information that don't have the proper context. So that's why, if you are using these types of apps or applications and finding information, if you do have questions or are concerned, I think it's really good to verify that information with a qualified professional. The other thing that we touched on before is that privacy aspect. So I suppose everyone's a bit different in terms of their values around privacy, but having in mind that any information you do share will be out there on the internet. So I suppose it depends on, again, what your values are around that, but it might be a bit of a barrier to be able to use or get the most out of things like ChatGPT.
You got to take a paid subscription for that.
There you go.
Sorry.
That's all right. And the last thing is that personalization aspect. So I think this is actually where seeing a dietitian is really, really helpful, because we have that full picture understanding of you. So it's not just information that we share, it's sort of like picking up on those subtle cues and exploring challenges you're having, emotional support, that type of thing that's not just food related or meal plan related. So from that perspective, it doesn't necessarily as personalized as a dietitian would in person. But the other thing to consider is that often we find, and I've even played around with this myself, typing in different types of prompts, but the more complex perhaps your medical history might be, you might have had bariatric surgery, but you also have diabetes or some other sort of chronic disease. The more layers we have, often the more conflicted the messaging is with things like ChatGPT, for example. So it might be recommending something that's really appropriate for post-bariatric surgery, but not necessarily appropriate for someone with diabetes and so on. So yes, that's why dietitians come in handy. So it's about, I guess, marrying the two. So using tools like AI to be able to give those quick, accessible ideas, and being able to sort of understand it in your own language. But I suppose there's no replacement for having that emotional support, that motivation, accountability, someone that understands you really well and can sort of translate that more complex information into more personalized advice. So more about being that it shouldn't replace nutrition or dietetic services, but more just sort of that support and that helpful, practical side of things.
That's really nice, Georgia, because I think what you have raised is a very relevant point, that as the layers of complexity, clinical complexity, get stacked on, like individuals with kidney problems, post-bariatric surgery, their intake, diabetes, other things, liver issues, that actually adds a level of complexity. And I think the other aspect of it that you said was really about giving the right prompts. Because prompts is really a question, which is where I'm going to get Gagan now. Because if you're not asking the right questions, you'll never get the right answers. And I think, Gagan, I'm sure you'd be able to attest to this, that the whole idea is it's not about replacing a dietitian, but how we can combine the knowledge of these two things. And I think somewhere over here, there is the significance of this human connection as well, which is going to become more and more powerful as we see that people are relying more and more on these artificial intelligence tools. So Gagan, I'm going to hand this over to you now. Please take us through a real life example. How can we use this technology safely? Because our whole premise is to use this technology. We know it has got so much benefit, but how can we use it safely? Please take us through that.
Thank you, Dr. Arun. So look, I guess, Georgia, there are 3 points which you talked about in your slides, right? And I have a very well-structured methodology to kind of address those 3 areas. So it's very well fitting in. We haven't spoken before, but you talked about accuracy, you talked about privacy, and you talked about the third point was, what was the third one?
Personalization.
Personalization, yep. So look, I have a methodology which I want to walk through, which will probably address all 3. Obviously, we can't replace a human doctor. We can't replace somebody who has years and years of knowledge. But there are ways we can address these three things, and I want to share that. Now, before I get into the slide and a bit of a demo, I do want to address the prompt aspect of it. Now, I think we have taken a few examples that, we want to create a quick meal. Absolutely. A well-written prompt can give you a good meal. But it is the prompt mindset is that if I write, a good paragraph in a well-structured manner, and if I give it to AI, then AI will be able to give me the right answer. It's the same thing. Imagine you are seeing a doctor or a dietitian for the first time, and you're thinking you're going to have a well-structured paragraph, which you'll just speak out, and then you'll get the answer. It doesn't work that way, right? Because human interaction is to and fro. You ask something, they ask you something more. You ask something, they ask something more. And that's how you build the knowledge base. AI has been built and it's been trained on human conversations. So we have to think from conversational methodology rather than a prompt methodology. And that's why I'm going to differ a little from the prompt engineering, but to go to the context engineering. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Right? Does it make sense?
Let's do it. I'm very curious, Gagan.
Curious. Look, it's going to be exciting. Look, this is the methodology all the people who use it day in, day out use it, and hopefully everybody gets good out of it. So I'll share my screen and we'll go from there. Oh, sorry. I think it's just this screen to share. Okay. Can you see 3 bubbles?
Yep.
So the structure of context engineering is 3 parts. First is we have to provide AI about ourselves. What is where we are, what we are, what is that our goals are, and context behind who we are. Now people get worried here, or there's a lot of privacy stuff, but we have a way to make it generic enough that it doesn't pinpoint to yourself. So that's the first thing. The second is structuring into projects, and ChatGPT can do it, and we'll talk about it. And the third is we build some guardrails so that it doesn't go and look for a US guideline, or it doesn't give you or doesn't use your information for something else. So there are guardrails. And for all 3 of that, we're going to have a quick demo. So I'll share my screen and we'll go through it. Can you see a Word document at the moment?
No.
No, you can't. See, this is where it only shares. Okay, so you can see a Word document now?
Yep.
And do you see, what do you see now?
AI
Same.
prompting best practices.
Oh, it still shows that Word document. Hold on. I meant to share the whole screen.
Sorry, Gagan, we are only seeing your slide deck.
Oh.
You want us to ask AI how to do it?
Hold on. Okay. Now you see the Word document?
Correct.
And what do you see now?
Nothing. Same Word document only.
Okay. All right. No problem. What I'll do is I'll switch between them and we'll go from there. The problem is I'm not able to share the entire screen. Okay. Anyway.
We can see the entire screen now. We can see your web browser now.
Oh, you can see the web browser now, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing, what I would request everyone is that if you already have a ChatGPT account, and go open it in the settings, check the personalization. If you're really worried about your privacy details, that your information is going to go out there, I would say remove everything. Maybe just put a nickname or whatever you want. You can remove everything. But the next thing I would really love everybody to do is provide more information about you. And I'm going to copy paste that. I'm going to give a Word document, by the way, a PDF, which Arun, you can provide everyone, which has all these instructions. But basically what we are doing now is we are giving AI information about ourselves so that it doesn't go and search internet and give you something else that you didn't ask for. So that's what we are doing now. So we are giving more information about you. So what I've done is here, I've given a range of my age. I have said, what is that I speak? British English. What am I? Health conscious, some basic details about myself, right? So that gives ChatGPT a bit of context about where I belong to. It doesn't give any personal information, but it's then going to contextualize everything for me. So I think that's the first step. So I say
Sorry to interrupt, Gagan. Can I just ask, is this the free version of ChatGPT or paid version? Which one are we talking?
Free version.
Okay, thank you.
It's the free version. And all what we are doing is I've just created a free account for myself. It's a fresh account. I haven't searched anything on this. This is to give everybody a demo that, how you can use everything from start if people haven't used it. So it's got a personalization screen and you can fill other things, but the most important thing is these are the things where you provide your information. Which country do you come from? What's your age range? What are your likings? And where you come from. Are you techie, non-techie, whatever? So that's the first step. That will make sure that AI is not hallucinating or giving you something which you're not asking for. So that's the first step. The second thing which I would request is create a project. Now, on your left-hand side, ChatGPT's free version now includes a feature called project, right? What project allows you to do is, it allows you to combine different aspects of your life in projects. So for example, you're talking about health, the meals, your weight loss journey or your health journey. Create that as a project. And at the same time, let's say you're planning to use ChatGPT for helping your children in their studies. That could be a different project, right? So create multiple projects so that the project will build a kind of knowledge base, which the ChatGPT will use to answer your questions so that it doesn't hallucinate. So that's the second step, create a project. So I'm going to say my health journey, right? So the moment I've created a project, it's now coming as a different tab here. And all the chats I do on this project will be like a knowledge base, which it will use to answer the question. It will not take any data from outside. It can go to search internet, but it will not mix things, what you're doing in this project, with other things in the other project. So it's now kind of a project. Now, once you have the project, am I going too fast? Is it all right?
No. You're going really well. I think, and please feel free, anybody in the audience who've got questions, please put it in the chat box so that we can get Gagan to answer them. Gagan, you're going at a very good pace. Please keep going. We've got another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And we might take any questions at the end.
Sure. So the next thing what I'll do is, I want to now change the screen because I'll share a Word document. And we'll talk about the very first prompt, which we want to give it to this project. So what we have done just now, so this document is going to be shared. Dr. Arun, I will give it to you and then you can share with the audience. So what we just did is created a project. Now, to this project, I'm going to give this prompt. Now, what this prompt is, it's saying, hey, ChatGPT, you have to support me in my personal health goals as a guide, coach, and information source. You're not suitable for medical care. All concerns should be discussed with my doctor. So it will give you a clear indication of things you should talk to your doctor. So it's using it sustainably. It will not give you medical advice. Then it will say sources and reliability. Prioritize Australian medical guidelines, blah, blah, blah. Global sources can be used only if Australian guidance is not available. Do not hallucinate. If you don't know, say so, right? It's trained on human behavior. So why don't tell it? Okay, communication style. Use plain English, provide clear, short, actionable answers. If I raise an issue that might be clinically relevant, flag it as a doctor note. So if it finds out that there is something which is it has discovered and that requires doctor's help, then definitely it will give you a flag, right? You're not expected to answer in a go. This is very important. Ask questions, clarify, and then respond iteratively, right? So that we build that human-like connection with it. Data collection question. This is also important. Do not collect every personally identified information, such as my name, address, phone. You can ask it. It will not collect it. That's the beauty. Always ask ranges as categories. So when it asks you, what's your age? It will not ask you what's your age. It will say, are you between this? And you just have to say this. So it can ask you those questions that way. Privacy safety. If I share a medical report, automatically detect and remove all personally identified information before processing. You can ask it. Right? Photos, notify me immediately. Anyway, all of that. So basically, you can ask it to say, remove everything before you use it. So it can't use it for training purpose anyway. Any data kept should be de-identified and tied only to the project, not to me personally. So only to that project, not to me personally, so that it doesn't link it to another. And the last but not the least is the boundaries. You may suggest habits, routines, and evidence-based tips, but must not diagnose or prescribe. Always remind me to consult GP. So this is where you are now, doing it sustainable way so that you don't go off the rails and things like that. No sharing of health outside private conversation. And then provide feedback, doctor's note, blah, blah. And you can add more if you have preferences. Like you can say, I don't want any medical terminology. Give me simple answers. So just add those things, right? So what I'll do is I'm simply copying this. This is your base prompt. And sorry, I have to now switch the screens.
Gagan, while you're switching, can I ask you a question? Can ChatGPT be so reliable enough to execute on all of those requests?
Good question. I have used it. It's quite reliable in the sense that, the point that do not hallucinate. Well, it will hallucinate. I can tell you right now, because it's designed in a way that it has to answer. It somehow cannot say no. I don't know, right? It's designed to do that. But given that we have said, don't hallucinate, ask further questions, you will see the difference now, how that's going to change the entire equation. So let's put that in. Let's do that. Thinking. That's our journey charter. Would you like me to save the charter as your standing reference for health related? So I automatically follow this. So that's it, right? Now, what it has done is, this is the chat in which we have put in the charter, right? At this point, I will leave this charter as is. I'm not going to ask any questions on here. How I'm going to use it later is this chat. Imagine this as a file. A file in my library in which only the instructions I give it to AI are going to be recorded. Right? So any further instruction I want to give it, I'll give it here, but I'll leave it for now. I'm going to go back to the project and I'll start a new chat. Right? Is it okay so far? Are we on the same page?
I think so. I think so.
Okay, all right. Now I'm going to go to the next chat where we have to tell this project some context about myself, right? What are my goals? What is it I'm looking for? That's the second step. And then the final step is about asking nutrition plans, some of the things about what can I cook in my fridge. That's the third step, but let me finish the second step first. All right. So I'm going to go back to the Word document again. That's the second prompt coming up.
So I take it, Gagan, while you're loading it, that this is about giving ChatGPT the parameters around which how you want to get the responses. That's the essential purpose of this exercise.
I would take this as an analogy, is that this is like going to see a new doctor, right? Or going to see a new professionals, and starting a new conversation. It's about telling them this is what I want. These are my guidelines. This is what I'm looking at. And then once it's all set up, then I can throw any question and I can get likely more reliable answers. Right? That's where it is. Anyway, so now the second one is my health project. So this is to provide more information about myself, right? This is the next prompt. This is saying that your health assistant, all the rules about data handling, do not collect PI. These are same thing repeated again. But here I'm giving AI a bit about myself, right? But if you see, none of that is personal information which is pointing directly at me. Everything is in ranges, right? So age range is this, activity level is this, current weight is this, diet style is this, sleep pattern is this. Again, this is a prompt pattern which can be updated, but this is giving my detail so that later on, when I ask for a meal plan, it knows who to customize it for, right? So that's the second prompt which I'm going to give it. And sorry, I have to switch again. So now I've come back to that project. So this is my project. And this was the charter which we created, but I'm going to now put that second prompt into a new chat window, right? And consider this, the second chat is all about giving AI information about myself. So I can keep adding later as well. But all of that is still into my project. So they're all being referenced with each other. Now, at this time, I can provide some of the files that I already have from you might have your weight scale app, you might have photos of your weight scale, you might have photos of your sleep pattern. All of that information can be provided this time. So I am going to provide that. Arun, how much time have we got?
Sure, yeah, we've got another 5 minutes or so.
5 minutes. So,
And maybe Gagan, you can just copy and paste directly from the Word document into your browser for us.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll save some time.
That's right. Okay. So I've given a bit of context about what about myself. Now I think the very third step, which is in the Word document, but I'll just copy paste. It's about then using some of the photos from my fridge or photos of my pantry and all of that information in the third chat to then ask to give some recognition to me. So the third prompt is, so if you look at it, it's kind of inputs you have is the photos, videos of fridge content, voice memos, family members, if their preferences, some text notes, all of that is that what I'm providing here. And hopefully we'll get.
And Gagan, can I ask that this three prompts, the three categories of prompts, let's call them prompts, they have to be given in the beginning only, right? They don't have to be given every time.
Only beginning, yes. And it's because you have created a project now.
Correct.
That's the beauty of the project, is because once you set up a project with this pre-information loaded, then any question you ask later on, ChatGPT will remember all the information you have given as part of the project, and it will build on that knowledge base as you progress. So here you can't see the photo, but I have a photo of my pantry, a video. I've taken a video of my fridge, and there is also an audio file with my daughter telling me her preference to eat dinner tonight, right? For example. So I've given all that.
And while we are at this, Monique, if there are any questions, please do let us know, either for Gagan or Hannah or Georgia. That'll be great.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that came through a little bit earlier, and I think Gagan has been able to answer that with a little bit more clarity. It was around how can we train or prompt AI to work for us and be more accurate. So, and there's a second part to that, which is, are there any GPTs that are great to use for nutrition? So we know that there are sort of different profiles of the GPTs. Are there any particular ones that you would suggest specifically for nutrition?
And I'd just like to add, to Hannah and Georgia as well. There is another, I should say, a AI tool called Cal AI, and I'd be curious to know if anybody of you have heard about it. I've certainly heard about it from one of my patients. So, whoever, Gagan, over to you.
Yeah, Arun, definitely I use Cal AI in my day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to know your eating pattern, because it clearly tells you just take photo of what you're eating in your breakfast, dinner, lunch, and it calculates the protein, calories, fat, all the three aspects of that particular meal. And then it gives you at the end of the day how much of protein you have intake and all that. So it sort of helps you guide over a couple of weeks on what is giving you enough protein and what is giving you more carbs that you don't like. So it's amazing. And yes, Monique, to answer your question, training specifically for nutrition, those are some of the apps who have LLM at the back end, which is then used to train this, more efficiently for nutrition aspect. But most of those purpose-built AIs are paid, right? And the other problem with those as well is they're paid is one, but the second is many of them can't use latest information, what's available on internet. So if something came out yesterday or a week back, they can't use it because they have to go through the whole training process to get that included in the training. And that's where sometimes ChatGPT does better than those trained models because it has access to internet and it can search the latest information.
And I would imagine that you could then say, I'd like, the answers that you're giving me. Can you tell me whether you have used Australian food guidelines, or, when you are researching, can you use the Australian food guidelines, or, if there are guidelines for diabetes, I want that overlaid on any answers that you're giving me, so that you could really be quite targeted specifically for yourself, how you're receiving those answers.
Absolutely, Monique. And that's what this methodology, which I've just explained, does it, right? So if you're still seeing my screen, what I provided was my pantry screenshot, and it actually gave me something. It says, from the photo you shared, I can see pantry included, and this is what it's found out in the pantry, and they're all Indian ingredients: lentils, chickpeas, kidney, moong, all of that. And it also said, and see, this is where the privacy comes in, because I prompted it earlier that you should not process anything that has personal information in it. It said, should I process the voice memo? So I gave a voice memo of my daughter. So it said, should I process it now to check what your family feels like eating? So it's asking me rather than processing it straight away. And do you want me to include ingredients from your fridge freezer as well? Both places, or could you upload photos or list all that? So I would say, yes, process, and give me options for meal for my own health conditions. Let's see. Please confirm one thing for safety. Could you briefly tell me what your health conditions are in general terms? Okay, high blood pressure. Now, this is where I've got few pictures from my health apps. So I'm going to show that.
And these could be, say, blood test results or anything. You could put anything over there.
This could be anything. This could be, do any of these photos contain medical information like prescription test results? If yes, I handle them carefully by extracting only the general health information. Could you confirm, analyze your health context safely? So it's now more cautious, right?
Correct.
About what you are giving. So yes, please process.
I think it's a bit more timid, I would say, right, Gagan?
Yeah, and look, other thing is it's asking you questions now rather than just giving you answers.
Yeah. I think it's just like any relationship. That's how I'm seeing, you set clear boundaries of what I expect from you and what you should expect from me.
Correct. So see, so basically now we build kind of a to and fro communication, right? And give 3 healthy practical dinner. Give me 3 healthy dinner options. That's it. What it does.
All right. So it's essentially asking you more questions based on the parameters that you have set and then giving you the options.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Arun. So
great.
So yes, if we prompt it earlier, and I think the document which I have shared, and I'll share
which we will share, which we'll share with others.
It will allow us to set up things properly, and that will allow us to get into the next one. Sorry.
Amazing.
More time. Sorry on that.
No. This is great. This is great. Hannah and Georgia and Monique, any final parting words? Anything that I don't know whether you have learned? Certainly, I have learned how to use ChatGPT more safely today because of what Gagan has shown. I mean, it's like training your pet, right? I don't want my pet to wee in the living room, and I need to train it first. So I think that's exactly what this is telling me.
Yeah, I agree. That was really helpful to learn how to train it a little bit better and give it those parameters. I must be honest, I just go straight in. When I first started using it, I'd say, please give me this. And my colleague was beside me laughing, like, why are you saying please and thank you? So it kind of feels like talking to a real person, you know. Oh, great question, Hannah. And it is like a real person. And I
It
love when I
is.
give you that feedback, like that's really insightful, Hannah. You know, great nuance. And it is quite fun, isn't it? While
You can
also,
have a proper conversation with
yeah,
AI. Like, I mean, a full psychology session, a
yeah,
therapy session.
yeah, yeah. So thank you for sharing that. That was great.
Now, Georgia, Monique, anything that you have to say before we say a final goodbye? And thanks to Gagan.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as Hannah. I think, tonight's session has been about, how do you train ChatGPT to give you the information that you actually do need. It's very easy just to go sideways and on a tangent and down some rickety road. But this way you can actually be quite targeted, and also, protecting your privacy. That was a very big key issue from this evening as well. So thank you, Gagan.
Yeah, I'm really eager to go and practice a little bit, I think, after using that.
Beautiful. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank every one of you, Hannah, Georgia, Gagan, and also Monique. Thank you for being there and co-hosting these with me. The whole purpose of these webinars really is to bring a deeper level of value, not just we know a lot of things about nutrition, but there are so many things that we don't know about and we don't understand. And the whole premise is for us to be able to bring experts and be able to share how to use this and build a system or a framework in our own life so that we can benefit in the long run. So I want to thank every one of you from the bottom of my heart for taking out the time. Gagan, Hannah, Georgia, and Monique, have a good evening. Thank you once again for your contribution.